Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Nerdrotic podcast. Tonight, we're going to be talking about The Gifted, Season 1, Episode 6, Your Six, which is creative, and it has a 6 in it. But joining me, as usual, for this podcast, first of all, coming to us from San Francisco, the great Gary Buechler. How's it going, Gary?
I am good. I don't know how great I am, but I'm good. I'm good. And
You're
that's
good?
okay.
Not too tired?
Not too tired, no. A little under the weather, but it's okay. It's
Not
just
falling
podcasting.
asleep during this one?
No, I'll try not to.
Also joining us from San Diego, Dennis Bithoulkas. How's it going, Dennis?
Doing all right. And I have no promises about not falling asleep during this one.
No promises. Well, we're not riding in a truck, so hopefully, we won't be talking about too many feelings and, making you, fall asleep quickly. But yeah, so this episode was an interesting episode of the show, guys. I've been kind of scouring the internet while we've been setting up, looking at other people's reviews just to see the general sentiment, because I felt like it was a bit of a filler episode, like a lot of good character exposition. And, that's, I think, necessary going into the home stretch of a season like this that we've gotten. So it's probably the place you would expect an episode like this to land in a 10 episode arc. But I did not think that it was the strongest of the season. And I feel like a lot of people out there really dug this episode. So where did you guys come down on it? Gary, did you, where did this episode fall for you?
It's like a mid-level episode. I didn't hate it by any stretch of the imagination, but it was, as Dennis just said, it had its CW moments, sitting in a truck talking about feelings. But I did manage to fill 3 cards of notes, so there was a lot of information in this episode. So if you've already bought into this show, I think you would enjoy it because you're starting to buy into the characters. The characters are pretty well developed at this point. The show is not guilty of doing a Star Trek Discovery and waiting 8 episodes to tell you about a character. So I think with that it did very well, but it was a filler episode, but it was a good filler episode, I feel.
So I agree with you. What I found that I liked about this episode in comparison to some of those CW shows where they're just kind of talking about how they feel in hallways a lot is that a lot of the scenes in this episode that felt that way lent themselves to some sort of tension right away. Like when Reed and Andy are talking about their father-son relationship, and then it leads right into the search of the vehicle by the cops, kind of showing like what side of the law, like the reason why his dad was so busy was he was one of those guys searching for mutants before. I felt like they do a good job of using the CW-ness to then lead to something else very effectively on the show. Do you see a difference, Dennis, or where do you fall on that spectrum?
It's done a little bit better than the CW, but not by much in this episode. And it was I don't know, it still has the whole, we have secrets still, and but you know what, I'm not going to keep any more secrets from everybody, but I have a secret.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I think it's hard for a show like this to get around that, especially when you're talking about like a big ensemble team show. There's a slip of the tongue. Show.
You're right, teen. It's aimed squarely at teenagers. I'm finding this is more in your realm, John, the freeform-ish.
I'm gonna differ a little bit. I mean, obviously, I don't think it's definite. I don't think it's like freeform CW level. But also, I feel like it's more a show for like parents, because the parent-child dynamic is like really prominent. The idea of like Caitlin trying to protect her daughter and coming around to that point of view. Andy Andy and Reed struggling with their relationship. This idea that there's these young adults are like in charge of a whole underground like revolution and trying to gain that responsibility. I mean, what do you think, Gary? Do you think it's squarely teen driven, or do you think it's more, I don't know, I see the parents really relating to a lot of these characters.
I'll tell you, I think it's family driven, especially with the time slot and the day it's on. That's the way it come off. I've got kids, so I can relate to Reed Strucker, even like if you were doing this job that was totally putting mutants away, and it was a pretty awful job. And he was a bit detached from it, being a prosecutor, so he chose not to see what was going on beyond that. But when it happens to his own kids, and with most parents, you would hope, with me anyway, you support your kids anyway. And I think that's one thing I can buy from him, that I can relate to with him, is like, no matter what your kid does, you would help them hide the bodies or whatever you needed to do, because you love your kids, no matter what, even if they're complete morons, which kids can be sometimes. Let's be honest. I was a kid too, and I was a moron kid. I think this episode actually filled in a lot of the X-Men stuff, though. It was just in passing, and I wanted way more information. But we started out with that Eclipse, or not Eclipse, I'm sorry, with the Thunderbird flashback, which was pretty good. Now, Thunderbird, I like the character. I like the guy playing him. He's still a little stiff with his acting a little bit. I think he's kind of the weakest actor in this. But that was a good little flashback, and you saw, just to give you context, this character. And that's been my biggest criticism of the show. While I'm still enjoying it, they still need to do a little more world building. For me, they've gotten better, but I still need to know what the hell's going on, because I feel like we're sitting in the Days of Future Past timeline, even though it would make sense, because the Days of Future Past, the future part of the Days of Future Past, and we're like right before they start hunting down mutants. We did get a mention of a Sentinel, not just Sentinel services coming after. When they were talking to that one little kid who was training, he said the Sentinels came after us.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys caught that.
I want to address some of these like theory, like world theories a little bit later, if you don't mind, Gary. Like, I think I want to dig into, before we get into the main story, though, I do want to say, I think the pacing of these episodes, where like it's predictable, also like a ton happens. Like, we see this kind of structure where like you have some sort of like big event at the beginning and end, and so you're kind of like coming off of the last episode at the beginning of the episode, and then you build up to some big thing that happens at the end, right? Like, that's kind of how these episodes have been. But I also think like a lot is happening. Like, when I'm taking my notes, it's like there's a lot of short scenes in this show, instead of like 3 or 4 longer scenes. And I feel like that allows them to like move quickly through the story. How do you feel about that pacing in general, or the pacing of the show, Dennis? Like, where do you land on how they're doing with moving the narrative forward week to week?
This episode didn't move the narrative forward as far as I was concerned. Like Gary, I'm still waiting to figure out what the hell this show is about. Where's it going? And again, you have an 8-episode arc. I know Gary and I have talked about this before with other shows. When you have a very small episode run on your show, you can't squander episodes. And I kind of feel like this episode got a little bit, yes, there was some information that was, a couple of crumbs of information that were given to us, but not enough. And I think this whole heist thing could have been compacted down, and more of the regular story, like what's actually happening, what this is about, could have been expanded on a little bit more. And
I feel like we're watching a different show sometimes, Dennis. Like, I felt like this episode, they had the break-in to get the information. You had Andy going on his first mission. You had an introduction of 3 new mutants to this. Polaris has started training people. We've seen that the underground is getting flooded with more and more mutants. We get this huge like bus action or truck action scene at the end of the episode, and all of it's kind of leading to like figure out what Dr. Campbell is doing with these mutants, and trying to figure out how they can get out from underneath Sentinel services.
I like the truck action scene when I saw it back in Knight Rider back in the 80s, because it was the exact same scene of a truck jumping a barrier, or a truck jumping a barrier. It's been done before, and it was honestly, when I was looking at it, I was like, wow, that's kind of cheesy, the way they did it. And I'm like, okay, I understand. You blew a lot of the budget early on with some of the bigger effects, which are really cool in some of the earlier episodes. In this episode, they needed to kind of pull back a little bit because they didn't have enough money. I understand that, but it was still, I was just kind of like, yeah, we are watching different shows, John, on that one. So
where are you on this, Gary?
Well, like I said before, I gauge my expectations based on whether I pay for something or whether it's free.
Yeah.
So this is like a mid-level thing. So I actually didn't have a problem with it. It was really ambitious for them to do a truck jump with her powers, doing what they did. And yeah, it didn't look the greatest with the truck part, but when they cut back to them getting thrown inside the truck, I thought that was good. That kind of recovered the scene.
That was actually good.
I thought that was good. Now, actually, like I said, a lot happened in this episode. It didn't feel like it, but when you go down the list, mentioning Sentinels, mentioning the X-Men putting Thunderbird in charge.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Okay, what the hell? Now, I hope if it doesn't get answered in the next 2 episodes, I'll bitch about it. But I mean, you got time to draw this stuff out. Why did the X-Men say there's going to be a war and then bail? Again, that's what made me think that this might be the starting of the whole Days of Future Past from the movie. If we are solidly in the Singer universe, which we don't really know. We kind of know, but we don't know. So yeah, they can play with that a lot, but I think they should just go ahead and buy in and be in the Singer universe. You're instead of being in the peripheral of it, and that would make sense. Okay, because that's why the X-Men would disappear then at that point, and the Brotherhood. I don't know, but
I definitely. I'm the reason I'm holding out on talking about those theories is because there's a few that I wanted to discuss, and I just wanted to get through like the basics of the episode, and then we can kind of because there's some big stuff I think there, especially with Johnny being from the X-Men. I think Blink being on the run and Dreamer. There's some stuff going on that I definitely want to dig into, but real quick, like let's just talk about each character's journey through this episode, or at least the different groups. Andy, his dad Reed, and Eclipse have a father-son type relationship, bonding trip to break into what was it like for there? It was like it
was the federal building. It was where the records were kept,
and they end up using Andy because he's the one that can blow a hole through the wall to get them in. They go on this mission.
That's because their Deus Ex Machina Clarice has taken off.
Blink.
Yeah.
Blink. Yes.
Yeah, Blink's gone. We'll get to her. But as far as this was concerned, I think the 2 big things we got out of this are that Andy and his dad have some tension that they need to work through. And Reed is trying to understand his son and what his son is going through with having these powers and being on the other side of it, where he's been locking up these young mutants and then understanding where his son is coming from. And then on top of that, we've got the dynamic between Reed and Eclipse, where Eclipse is willing to cross some lines that Reed isn't ready to cross yet. So Gary, first, which of those do you want to dig in onto first? What did you feel about either of those storylines going on?
Well, I like the father-son one. Those can normally be really annoying or cringy. And I thought this one was done pretty well because it was done pretty light. They didn't go super heavy-handed with it. And I'm always going to be an advocate of it's nice to see a good dad in a TV show these days because you just don't see it at all, ever.
I learned it from watching you, okay?
So that was cool. And they're talking about fatherhood with Eclipse, and they're kind of bonding. And Eclipse is learning to trust Reed. He's almost starting to look up to him now, and he's finding his place, in this mutant underground. So yeah, even though I made a joke about they're sitting in a truck talking about feelings. I actually liked that scene. I actually thought it was pretty good. I also liked the addition to Eclipse's powers, like he could just suck the light out of a room. That was really cool too. So no, dug it. I don't know if that answers your question, but
I agree with you. I feel like the execution of the father-son scene was done really well, especially that it led to that kind of tense moment where the cops pulled him over, and then Eclipse has to hide him, and he gets drained, and it leads to Reed asking questions about what Andy's power is like, and what he feels like when he uses his powers. But I guess to kind of tie a bow around it, I like that there's this tension between Reed and Eclipse, and that Eclipse is willing to do things that Reed isn't. Like when he burns down the record room at the end.
Oh yeah,
Reed's like, hey, we don't need to do that. I feel like that's an important moment in where this show is moving, right? Like, do you think that tension is going to build, or where do you think that's going?
I think it's Reed being naive. I mean, like that's the first thing I thought of when they're getting out of the room. It's like, burn that shit down. I mean, like, why are you even keeping it? And it's Reed having to let go of his past. Like he hasn't fully let go yet. Like it's still new to him. You know, he saw that picture in the office and it kind of threw him back a little bit. So I think that's real. I think that's like, man, my whole life is just turned completely upside down. And damn, do I have to give this up too? And he was thinking of his workmates there, but so Reed still needs to fully buy into this thing. He hasn't done that yet. Eclipse has.
It's not just Reed; it's also Kate as well.
Kate, yeah, and we'll get to her. But I think Eclipse also. I think they'll balance each other out eventually. Because Eclipse is not. They even talked about it in the truck. Like he has had no father influence in his life. So Reed, might be able to help him out, especially since he's about to have a kid. So, that's things he's got to think about now because, Eclipse, what are you going to be for, the mutant resistant or your family? Because that dynamic changes. Yeah, you're in this big war and stuff, but once you have a family, like it's about your family first, even more than the underground. So, yeah.
I think that's interesting. I totally hit my mic. I totally agree. This was to me the least interesting storyline that was going on, and it took up a lot of the time of the episode, which is I think maybe why the episode felt so long. But I do feel like the relationship foundation that they're setting between those three characters is probably going to pay off. Like, I like that they took that time to really set the stage of where Reed is with his son right now, and where the dynamic between these kind of two alphas like Reed and Eclipse, and how their dynamic is going to be. Is Reed going to father Eclipse? Are they going to butt heads? Are they going to complement each other well? That sort of thing. Dennis, you're giving a quizzical look. I'm guessing you didn't see it quite the same way.
I don't equate Reed as an alpha. Honestly, I think he has some knowledge, but he is pretty much along for the ride on this and on what he can offer, and he's trying what he can at this point to stay within the group for his family and not be thrown out, to tell you the truth, is what I'm getting from it.
I don't know, man. Like, he's pretty alpha. Like, he's a leader, right? Like, he always steps in to lead whatever he's.
Well, he has to. He's been saying, I'm going to earn my keep and prove to you guys why I need to be here, and that's what he said. Like, I think it was last episode when they rescued him.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they're inside man. I mean, that's how he knew about the federal building and the files, to go get the files to find out what Sentinel Service is doing. And that was the whole meaning of that, was like, what the hell are they doing to our people? Which I don't know if they fully explained.
No, we don't know. I think we're going to discover that next week when we get the information that
they're pouring over the files. Yes, right now.
So let's move on a little bit to Caitlin and how she's dealing with her relationship with Polaris. I see like these parallels between Reed and how he's dealing with Eclipse, and how Caitlin is dealing with Polaris. Polaris has gotten a group of people together, a group of young mutants together, new mutants, if you will, to train them up, right? The main one is Lauren, but there's this new dude, Wes, who we'll talk about shortly. There is some sort of water manipulator, and there's some sort of energy manipulator. And she's taking them and she's basically training them up. And her version of training is just throwing like buzzsaws at them or something, like saw blades. And Caitlin's like worried that her daughter is going to get decapitated by a saw blade. And she kind of steps in, and they kind of talk about, really it boiled down to Polaris is saying like, look, you're part of this militant group now. We have to be ready for combat. And Caitlin's like, not ready yet to really accept that. Is this going to be, Dennis, we've dealt with this on Arrow, I think, where this one character has the same arc over and over again, where they have to come to some sort of acceptance.
That's exactly what I was getting. I mean, that was the vibe I was getting, was, okay, didn't she just learn this like 3 episodes ago? And then the episode after that, and the episode after that, and she keeps doing it over and over again. It's like, well, I don't agree with it. I don't see it that way. Oh, wait, I learned my lesson at the end. Nope, I'm back again.
Yeah, it's funny because at least in this one, there's slightly different lessons, although I agree it's a lot. But and how many seasons are we in on Arrow where he's still doing that? It's been 5 seasons of that. And this has been like 5 episodes.
In the
Yeah.
first season. I
Yeah,
think.
we'll see what happens in season 2, but I do get a little bit of deja vu with Caitlin all the time. Gary, Polaris as a team leader, not a team leader, but as like a training a drill sergeant. What do you think of her tag? It's not exactly the danger room here.
She's just terrible.
Yeah, Polaris
she's
just chucking things
person
at people.
to be freaking training these kids. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, she's angry.
Thunderbird. She's angry. She just got broken out of prison. She's Magneto's freaking daughter. I love her as a character. She's my favorite character in the show. But you know what? They probably didn't want to do this on purpose, but I think what would help this show in the future, and I know Reed is supposed to be that. It would have been nice to see. Remember the old Fox show Generation X?
Yes.
Gen X. Remember when that came on? That little
Matt Furrer.
And they had Banshee and Emma Frost. It would have been maybe later if they bring an adult mutant. That would have been cool. I think that would have helped the dynamic. And I know they want to focus on the Struckers and the family. And I know it's part of the dynamic, but maybe that's something that'll help the show in the future. Yeah, she's a terrible trainer, but I think she's supposed to be. I think that was how it was supposed to be. And then
I agree.
So you're saying they need the wise old man to come in and say, son, now's the time not for anger, but to train.
But to train, and then he dies.
Avenge
me. Oh my god.
So yeah, and then we get let's talk about Wes. We meet a new character. On IMDb, he's played by Robbie something or other. I had it in my notes until my file deleted on me.
They cast him from the semi-douchey looking guy folder.
Yeah,
Danny Ramirez.
Danny Ramirez. And he's an illusionist. I don't think he's based on any character from the comics that I've figured out. He's just a basic illusionist, but he's got a thing for Lauren, and she kind of ropes him into
a thing for her.
Yeah, of course. She's very pretty. But
very young gentleman.
And very young. That's also
true. No, I'm not saying. I'm saying I said
yeah.
He has a thing for her. That wasn't any of.
Sure. Okay. Just kidding.
But he gets roped in. First of all, during training, Polaris is really like, what's he gonna do if you chuck a saw blade at his head? Like, he makes illusions, he can't really do anything. So what he did was turn the saw blade into a flower, which I thought was like creative. It was smart, and she got really pissed off. What did you think of Wes's first attempt at being part of this group?
If the high school you went to was a mutant school, Soda, he would be like head of class. He'd be like the artistic mutant. I don't know. Maybe his superhero name is Chris Angel. I don't know.
He's just a magician.
If he catches you before you do anything, he can F with you hard. Like, he can mess with your aim or anything, but like the minute like you're into your action, he's kind of dead.
And if you know what he can do, like if you know it's an illusion, it's easy to get through.
So it's good for him to be, in the sniper's nest or something like that up there. I don't know. I got a traitor vibe off of him at first. I was like, this is, I think, because I totally,
I can't wait to talk more about this.
Oh yeah, because I've changed my mind on that, and I know exactly who it is. I will tell you at the end of this episode who the traitor.
So you think there's a mole or a traitor? Somebody's gonna
absolutely.
Okay, let's just skip to that right now, because this is something I want to talk about, because I was getting vibes off of a few characters.
Well, I can tell you what, I'm going to get shit for this too. Okay,
no, I'll let you go first.
This is a joke on the internet. I'm going to, which makes it not a joke when I have to come out and say it. Kind of sucks. God, I hate 2017. Yeah, you never trust a redhead. Okay.
You know who's I'm watching Survivor this season, and there was a redhead who got voted off because you can never trust a redhead.
Never trust it. Even if they dye their hair red. Okay.
Yeah. So wait,
died right
so
now.
you think Dreamer? Yeah. Dreamer. She's gonna
she's got the power to do it, and she's just was way there's the obvious reasons. She was way too happy Blink was gone. Like, very happy Blink was gone. But did you see how quick she just like was totally? I mean, she pretended to him and Haw about like changing her thoughts in her head, and she just went ahead and did it. I'm like, oh, that's a good traitor right there. So I was looking around for tattoos. I was looking for the tattoos.
Oh, you think that she's actually part of Dr. Campbell's group?
Yeah, that's what I think. I could be wrong, but I mean, come on, they're totally giving a traitor vibe off her, and it started out with what was his name again? The new guy. I had it.
Wes.
Yeah, I first got the traitor vibe from him, and it's still kind of there, but then it switched to her.
So I also wanted to do a death draft, and I had the exact same process, Gary. Like I was like, ooh, this Wes guy, he's sketchy. And then I was like, oh, you know who's more sketchy? Dreamer. And I was like, you know what they're doing with Wes? They're building him up to kill him. Like that guy's dead. We've been talking about Thunderbird, but I think Wes is going to bite it in the next 2 episodes.
You think he's dead meat?
Yeah, I think he's a red shirt. What about you, Dennis? Where do you fall on this stuff?
Okay, so I got a couple of them. So yeah, Dreamer was one, Sage, Shatter.
Oh, why do you think Sage or Shatter?
Because they're not in it that much. They keep
they're not talking
outside, you know, the peripheral, they keep showing up going, remember me? I'm here.
Yeah.
And they go back out again. Also, Wes at first gave me that vibe, and then I was like, nah, he's dead meat. But the one kid who Kate was talking to, who said, you know, your blood pressure's up a lot, you know, and he says, I've been having to use
the energy manipulator guy.
Yeah. And I think he's been forced to use his power over and over and over again as part of training to be a hound.
Interesting. That was a good pickup, man. I didn't put those things together. I thought it was more of like a character moment with Caitlin, where you see her being like a nurse to the mutants and stuff. But you're right. Like it specifically was that he had that issue. So that's interesting. I like that theory.
Yeah, and he was a little bit standoffish, you know, like talking to her and talking to the others, and like not really sure if he should be there. Okay, yes, you're a refugee. That's great, but also if you're going to betray your own kind, and you're kind of, you know, hesitant about it, but also it's going to get you off the hook. You know, that's same kind of vibe.
Did you guys notice the name of the trucking company that the truck they were hiding in?
I did not.
Dennis, did you?
I saw it and I completely forgot what it was.
It's Claremont Institute Movers.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they got a big Chris Claremont shout out in this episode.
The John Byrne shout out.
Yeah, I think we'll get. They're doing a pretty good job. I think we'll get one eventually. But yeah, I thought that was really funny. I like the little Easter eggs. They're being very careful about this show and keeping it, you know, keeping it kind of grounded in this real X-Men universe. Like I think they're evolving the Singer universe in a smart way. Like they're forced to play within the bounds of this universe that he created for the X-Men that I've never really enjoyed. But I feel like they're not expanding it. I feel like they're grounding it. They're grounding it in more comic book lore in this show without like making it like just these little nuggets that they're throwing at us have been really fun. And their choice of mutants to have on the show, I think, has been really smart. Because, you know, it's almost like there's an edict not to use this show to grow the X-Men franchise. It's like, hey, just play in this corner, guys. But they're doing a good job being in that corner.
Yeah, and all the high-powered mutants are gone. So that's why they were very happy to get the Strucker kids. They even mentioned that she, you know, these are the, you know, highest level powered kids we've gotten in. We got to use them, and they definitely have to use them.
So let's talk about the X-Men a little bit. We teased this early on in the show. Johnny mentions in this episode, and we'll get to Blink running away as well. But Johnny mentions in this episode that we see the flashback, and we learn that he was placed there by the X-Men. First of all, do we think he's the only one, or do we think, or do you guys think that like Polaris also went through the X-Men organization, or Sage, or Shatter, or Dreamer? Like, did any of these people come out of the X-Men, or is it just Johnny? They like put him over on the side and said, "Hey, start up this underground."
Feels like Johnny and Sage were the ones. Eclipse, I think, came in later. Polaris, I think, was probably put there by the Brotherhood.
Interesting.
Placed by the Brotherhood, if they placed anybody, and it started with them. I mean, Johnny's the natural leader. He's also been through a couple tours of war, so I mean, he's dealt with this stuff. He's the most level-headed out of all of them.
Yep.
So
this version of Johnny. So first of all, he mentioned his dad. Do you guys know? Do either of you, are you guys familiar with the bloodline? We know his brother, right? Is the other Thunderbird, right? Or Warbird? Anyway, we know that he's got a brother in the comics, but
yes.
He's not like, doesn't have lineage, right? Dennis or Gary, Dennis, do either of you guys know?
I don't know.
I'm sure there is from some, offshoot
Mentioned somewhere.
Yeah, there has to be. Nothing I remembered. I've read a lot of X-Men, and it's never.
Yeah, I've read a lot too, and I really, but I never really connected with the character. Actually, this version of the character with the like souped up powers reminds me of the Exiles Thunderbird that had gone through, I think, the Weapon X program or some other program where he like hulked out. This almost reminds me of that version of him with the ability to, be slightly invulnerable and the super strength.
That should still be the title of this show.
It should be an Exile show.
I mean, they should just make it. Oh my God. See, that's the show they need to do someday. When Marvel gets the rights back, do the Exiles. That would be such a fun show. You need a pretty big budget, but
I want to have that conversation before we go on to what we think we're going to get from next week and doing a little bit of a death draft. I don't want the podcast to go forever, but let's talk about this rumored Fox Disney deal just really briefly, because we were talking about it, and I made a funny comment, which I won't use because there's some political stuff in there. But I also think so it's rumored that Fox, because it can't compete with some of these digital platforms and these huge media conglomerates, was trying to sell all of its content for movies and TV to Disney to just take over, right?
Not TV. The TV, it can't. Just the movies. And
no, it can't, but they wanted to. So I'm saying like Fox was trying to sell it all off because they figure they can't compete. But the problem is that there are these conflicts with some of the television networks and television programming, and so it looks like the deal might be dead on arrival. And monopoly laws. What do you guys think? Like, in a world where there are no laws against this, and just looking at it from a content point of view, from like hey, is Fox better at managing these properties, or would Disney be better at managing these properties? Where do you guys come down on this? Like, would you prefer to see the X-Men over at Disney, like showing up on their platform or on Hulu or something, or are you just like whatever, they'd screw it up too?
No, I want to see X-Men at Disney. I think under Kevin Feige, I would love to see the X-Men under Kevin Feige, as long as it was under Kevin Feige. Like under Perlmutter, no. I'd rather they stay at Fox.
The first thing I would love to see them do is to pry it out of Bryan Singer's dead fingers.
Well, or
alive ones.
Fingers,
out of his fingers. And you know what? And Laura Schuler Donor too. I'm sorry, but she's part of that too. And that almost happened, and so, and
I'd like to see it integrated.
Deadpool 2 could change everything, because Bryan Singer's not had a ton of success. He had success in the TV side, but his last movie was a dud. And
let's look at this. We've gotten Legion, right? Legion, you guys love Legion. A lot of people really, really love Legion. We've got Gifted. I really, really love Gifted. Gary, you're digging Gifted. Dennis, I think you can take or leave it, but you're enjoying it.
I like it. Yeah, it's not fantastic, but I like it.
The last Deadpool movie was very, very good.
I like it
the actual X-Men movie franchise is the worst thing they have going for them of all these other X-Men kind of spin-offs. Yeah, Logan was great. Exactly. So, I feel like they're doing a good job. They just need to get out from under Bryan Singer, and they'd be in a much better place. Like, give it to Matt Nix, really, or whoever is doing Legion. Who's the guy? I don't know. If you guys know. Noah, yeah. So whatever, give it to one of these guys. But I just think it's an interesting kind of concept that like Fox, like Marvel almost could get the X-Men and Fantastic Four back. It looks like there might be a price tag attached to those if Fox doesn't really care about this stuff anymore.
Not just that as well. If that whole thing was to go through, Fox would also get the original Star Wars trilogy, which Fox still owns the rights to.
The Prince, yeah.
Yeah, the Prince.
Right.
I think it's it's a bad sign for everybody involved that Fox, which looks healthy as hell from the outside, is willing to just sell right now. What does that tell you? That should tell you that network TV, as we know, is done. The clock is ticking.
Yes.
Clock is
the
ticking.
future is this new Disney platform, CBS All Access. This is the Hulu,
they
Netflix.
Think the future is that. Those have not succeeded yet. Netflix and Hulu and Amazon have succeeded. So
no, this is going to be a long, this is a 10, 15, 20-year curve. This isn't like happening tomorrow.
It might have to happen faster. No, I think
so.
I think it's way shorter because Amazon is about to come hard. And you know that, John. You've been calling that.
No, I think
Amazon has something that Disney and Fox don't have, which is hard to believe, but they have more money. They have more money. And
I'm not talking about like the speed at which we're going to see these other things go up. I'm talking about how long it's going to take the normal cable system to crash, right? We're going to get these parallel courses for a long time, but I don't think the way pilot season works, like all that stuff, I think that's going to stick around for another 10 or so, a decade or so more at least, that's all I'm saying.
I mean, yeah, because as much as Netflix and Amazon want to speed this thing up, the networks still control things, and also you have to control the content. And I know Amazon and Netflix don't want to wipe everything out because then they'll be the kings of ashes. That's it. I mean, it would just be kids watching YouTube. And that's what I messaged you guys earlier is, we have a little bit of an older audience, but I got kids and none of them, I unplugged, year and a half ago, and neither of them watch any kind of network, anything, ever. So, they'll watch some Netflix once in a while, but that's it.
You gotta remember, Fox was also banking on, they said, okay, we're going to sell off everything and we're going to focus on news and sports because we think that's where it's going to be at. And I'm like, you're kidding, right?
News. That's funny. That is hilarious.
They gained a lot of control, through news in a different arena, right? Like it's not the success they've seen in those arenas aren't hitting like as a media conglomerate. It's like its influence is showing in other ways, right?
And the sports thing that's debatable now. I mean, it's really debatable.
Most people have these packages. Again,
to the X-Men, if it was the X-Men going to Disney, just them, that would be great. But
I can see that happening. I can see them selling that stuff off if they're not interested in it. Yeah. And Fantastic Four.
God, I'd be happy with the Fantastic Four going back. It'd be nice to see Disney take a crack at them. That would be fun.
And just to have those characters all show up together in like an Avengers like a big crossover experience. But
what does that sale say for the show we are talking about right now?
I think that
does not bode well. I don't think.
I agree. I think that might be a little bit best. It may speak to why we haven't seen a renewal on the show yet. But I still think it's going to get a season 2. I think enough people are talking about it. So let's speaking of enough people talking about it, let's hit real quickly on Blink. Actually, before we get to Blink and her running away and then what we're going to see from the next episode, please like us on Facebook. It's facebook.com/nerdrotic podcast. We have all of our news updates and event updates over there. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We're the Nerdrotic channel on YouTube. Just hit subscribe and the little alerts button. You can also hear us in your ears instead of see us in your eyes if you go over to the iTunes podcast app or SoundCloud. We're the Nerdrotic podcast over there. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Jon Reed 16. Dennis is at Daforce, DAFORCE. And our official Twitter feed is at Nerdrotic. That's with an S on the end. And please, if you want to support us even further, head over to Patreon. We're getting our tiers set up. I know I've said this a bunch of times, but
that's me. Sorry.
Yeah, we're getting the tiers set up. If you pledge, $1, $5, whatever a month, we'll take that. We'll also get some tiers in there where you get prize packs and exclusive content and even maybe show up on one of these podcasts with us one day. So check out our Patreon at patreon.com/nerdrotic. So Let's talk about why they've relegated Blink to the sidelines so much this season. What do you guys think about that choice? Let's start, Gary. Either of you guys, if you feel,
Well, I'm sorry that this is an actual person that which is
yeah.
which is funny. Like it's weird covering a show with one of us knows somebody. Yeah, you might want to ask her, John. I think it's an effects thing. Like her powers are kind of trippy and like they're expensive. Also, what Dennis said, Deus Ex Machina is
she's too powerful.
But she limited her own powers. I think she's a good character, and I really want to know where the hell she came from. And I was really disappointed with the fact that they just showed her. I thought they were going to show her like in a different world.
Me too. Instead of a stairwell.
Instead of a stairway at Bart or wherever the hell she.
I was kind of surprised they didn't play like some kind of sad song. Some
closing time.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
That was
doing a whole montage thing.
that was no, I think it's budgetary, but I think she's going to be a big deal. Well, for one, she's going to come in and save somebody last minute next episode, but I think she's part of the season finale. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I think she's part of the cliffhanger.
So what's she gonna? She's just gonna have a bad experience away from them next episode that'll drive her back to them the episode after that. Is that what we're getting from her?
I think so. I think. Where else she got to go? For one, we have no context of where she came from. So I think next episode they might show a little bit of like where she came from or what happened to her, and I think it'll cause her to come back because she seems like she's alone. So and I want to know why. And that was, but again, we have 2 more episodes. They could cover it. And it looks like shit's about to go down. So
I did find it funny that Dr. Campbell, they just kind of brought him in like, hey, remember me? I'm Dr. Campbell. I was introduced a couple episodes ago. I'm just bringing Jace back in, but I'm going to leave right now. I'm just going
it's a weird like cameo situation with that actor who's in every episode. Yeah.
Like Leslie Nielsen in the airplane.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to let you know we're all behind you.
Oh man.
It really was. I mean, he was just in there for like a minute and a half. He's like, you want your card back or not?
Right.
Like me? Okay, here's your
card. Let me know
back.
if you need anything. Bye. So, let's talk about Jace Turner a little bit. He's gone over the edge. He's had to deal with his daughter dying for the second time after the memory wipe that the mutants pulled on him. What's going on here? I mean, did we really need to drive this guy further down the I Hate Mutants pipeline to where he's like breaking laws now to try to round them up?
Yeah,
Dennis,
it was supposed to. The stakes weren't raised enough, where he was just kind of. It was becoming the same thing over and over again, where he was like setting up a roadblock. It didn't work. The mutants get away. Okay, we'll try again next time.
Yeah, these guys need to watch Burn Notice to see how to do like a
Roblox school. Yeah, Roblox.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Spike Strip School.
I think doubling down on that was actually kind of cool.
Okay.
But like that's the only time we've seen his wife, right? So
yeah.
I think we need to see a little bit more of that. And again, I would like a little more world building. Bryan Singer was famous for this stuff, putting a TV news on a hot dog stand on a beach.
Yeah.
To fill in the background. Do that, dude. Like have him walk through a bar and it's like, it's been 1 year since July 15th and show the explosion and like how many people died. It's like, how big of a massacre was this?
We did find out where it was this episode. July 15th happened in Dallas.
In Dallas, yes. It happened in Dallas, but still have no idea how many people died, how many mutants died. I mean, why is everybody going so ape shit about it? Is it like a 9/11? Like just show us. And I know they're trying to hold out for the mystery, but I think that might be a mistake. I think, because like, I don't know how much retention this show is having right now. We're in it. I'm in it because it's X-Men. And it's good. It's good.
It leveled out after the 3rd week. So unless it's dropped off in the last week or so, I think up until episode 5. Obviously opened the biggest, as series premieres tend to do. And then it had a pretty significant drop down on the 2nd episode and then dropped a little bit more. I think it was down at like 2.5 5 or 3 million after that, and then it kind of leveled out around there. So it's leveled out in the last couple episodes. It hasn't been bleeding viewers since the
look, X-Men fans are a powerful fan and an underrated fan base. And I learned to respect that when I owned my comic store. I didn't realize how strong X-Men fans are. It's a sect amongst themselves within Marvel. There's Marvel, DC, and then there's X-Men fans and Batman fans. But X-Men fans are they're like the Star Trek fans within the comic community, or whatever you want to call it, because they know what. There's no half-ass X-Men fans. They read it all. They know their history. You could almost have your own X-Men convention at, you know, especially in the 80s you could have. So, and they've held on to it. So that's a built-in fan base that I don't think Fox respects enough sometimes, or all the time.
I think I honestly think that they've done such a bad job with the X-Men that they've kind of lost, like, X-Men comic fans haven't really transitioned very hardcore into the TV or movie medium because of kind of what happened after X3 and so on. And just Singer kind of making it like the black leather instead of the costumes, you know, like, I just feel like they didn't do a justice to the characters. And so, like, a lot of the X-Men fans just aren't fans of this expanded X-Men universe. And so, like, I feel like they're trying to do, you know, they've done a pretty good job of trying to get them back with Legion and Gifted. But, you know, I don't think that if you had put this on like a subscription service like Star Trek Discovery, that you would have had quite the, you know, response.
No, you're right.
But I think that it's more of the comic and the cartoon. I think if you launched an X-Men cartoon, even like feature length cartoon series, like through Fox Animation or something, that would be huge. Like, I feel like you would have the people who grew up with the 90s cartoons showing their kids the X-Men through this new, you know, thing. Like, I feel like they're missing out on it by not having
a ton of stuff. They are, but that's because Fox has their own problems, like every network does right now. So
yep.
Oh, well.
So what do you think's happening in the next 2 episodes? Where do you think this thing goes, guys?
I think it's Sentinel service will do a couple more roadblocks and figure out those aren't going to work and finally break out their little Sentinel drones again. I think
flying trucks.
No more flying trucks. No, but I think somebody's going to get caught, or it's either somebody's going to get caught or there's going to be a traitor in the next episode. And I do think somebody dies. I think somebody dies.
Let's do our quick death draft. Gary, you can have the first pick. Dennis, you're second. I'll go third and fourth. Dennis, you'll be fifth, and Gary, you'll be last. I'll, even though I've had bad experiences taking notes tonight, I will take this down so we can revisit it after the finale. So Gary, number 1 draft pick on the board for who do you think is going to die in the next 2 episodes? We're just talking about this season in the finale. You know, the last kind of the double part, it's not a double part finale, but the last 2 episodes. Who do you think is most at risk of not making it through to season 2?
Thunderbird.
Okay, Gary, T-Bird off the list. I mean, look,
comic book reasons.
Yeah, comic book reasons. I think that's a smart, funny pick. My argument against that is I think they're in on this actor, even though we don't like him very much, and they're in on him being kind of the leader here. So I think that would be a brave and bold move. But yeah, I mean, in any other series, he probably should have died already, as he does. Dennis, what do you think of that pick?
Wes.
Oh, so you're going with Wes. Oh,
yep.
You cribbed Wes. Okay. So why do you think Wes is likely to die in the next couple episodes?
He has a really lame power, and he's just gonna die. He needs, and also, you know, he's already flirting with Lauren, and Lauren likes him. So it's basically somebody.
That's a lame power. I mean, it's lame when it comes to fighting a mutant war, but like for everything else, for having game, oof.
Oh yeah, for having game.
Illusion.
I'm talking about fighting a mutant war. As a mutant power, it's kind of on the lame side.
You can do a lot of crazy stuff with illusion powers. You can really F with people.
He would have the most powerful mutant girlfriend for sure.
But let's put it this way: Lauren, is going to fall in love with him. We already saw that she was kind of, flirting with him or whatever.
And they really escalated that quickly. So,
yeah. So he's got to die so that her powers can ramp up exponentially.
Yeah, she's gonna. Yeah, exactly. I like that theory.
He'll be her catalyst. All right.
Yeah, he'll be the catalyst. I think he could also be one of those characters that they kill off that's not really dead. He also could be a mole or somebody who turns on them, and the betrayal is the big thing.
He can become a hound.
He could become a hound. I don't know, Dennis. You're all in on this hound theory. It's hilarious.
Well, what they already mentioned that they're hounds.
Okay,
they have the hounds.
What's next?
I'm gonna go with. Okay, so those are probably the top two picks you could do. I think since I have two back to back, I'm gonna make a bold prediction, and I'm gonna go with the grandma. I'm gonna go with the original Strucker twin,
Cagney.
Cagney
And Lacey.
Yeah, I think
Grandma Strucker.
Yeah, I think we're going to deal with that storyline at some point. And then I'm going to have to go with, I mean, they've relegated Blink to the sideline. Carmen. Carmen's dying. I don't think she's been a fan favorite.
You want her to die.
Yeah, I think just for my own, I hope this happens purposes. What do you guys think of those?
She's not going to die just because you want her to die, John. That's why.
I know. That's what keeps happening on these death drafts for Game of Thrones too. What do you guys think of those picks, Cagney and Carmen?
I think they're realistic. I actually think Carmen needs to die. I think that's going to be something you want to put a layer on Eclipse's character. He has to kill Carmen because she threatened right at the end of this episode. She threatened to turn everybody into Sentinel services. I would turn her into a shadow on a wall.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like that.
Especially when you're threatening my baby mama. Oof.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Bye-bye.
I think if she physically threatens, I think Polaris will take her out, if anything.
Yeah.
I think it would be better to keep a secret, to keep in line with the secret thing is he kills her and then doesn't want to tell her that he killed her. although she can go like Mickey Mallory and just go, oh, that's the most romantic thing you've ever done.
Yeah, exactly. I love you. Let's run off together and escape from Sentinel services and the cops and homicide.
Yeah.
So Dennis, who's your next pick?
I'm gonna say Shatter.
It's a good one. He's not talking much. He looks so cool, though. I don't know if they can get such a cool looking.
Yeah, he does look really cool.
Makeup budget a little bit, so
yeah, exactly. That's it. It's like, nope, too many practical effects. We need to get rid of them.
Okay. Yeah, he hasn't said much, so I can't. It wouldn't have much narrative resonance.
Well, it's either him or Dreamer, one of the two. So it's.
Yeah, that's a good one too. So Gary, who's your final pick of this death draft?
My final pick of the death, I think the Struckers are just safe. I'm gonna go with Sage.
Sage, okay. Again, not much narrative resonance there, but she's a high name brand.
Yeah. I think she's there to die, and she'll be the avenge me. Yeah.
And then we can all agree the number 1 and 2 mole alert, traitor alert characters are Wes and Dreamer, right? Like those are the two that'll turn on them most likely.
Yep.
If that happens. Dennis, do you see anyone else?
Like I said, I think that one kid who
Mystery Kid.
That would hit like a that would be good storytelling just on a real note, of just like you can't really blame the kid, like they've got his family or something like that. So that would keep it. Because I think this show needs to play more in the gray areas.
Yes, I agree.
But I think it's going to be Dreamer.
So I'll give you Dreamer. I'll take Wes, and I'll give Dennis Mystery Kid.
Okay.
I'll say, Dreamer is probably it, because what's going to happen is you're going to have Blink come back and kill Dreamer just as she's about to kill Johnny.
I don't see Blink murdering Dreamer in cold blood.
She's going to do it. No, she's going to do it by accident. Try to save Johnny.
And my portal closed halfway through her accident.
Exactly. And then everything's resolved. between
You know,
that
a better
triangle.
prediction. I could actually see part of that happening. I could see Blink coming back, them finding out that Dreamer had turned on them, and Blink just blinking her into like some other parallel world where she's lost, and we pick up next season where the Dreamer is just in this other universe and they have to go find her because they feel bad or something. Like I could see something like that happening.
And she comes through in their dreams.
Yeah, comes to them in their dreams. If that were really her power. That's cool.
Be like the Sandman.
Okay, so any final thoughts before we go into the next couple episodes, guys?
I'm glad to see Carmen back.
I really think she's I think if I think Eclipse is gonna take her out. I think that'll actually be good to see her come back. If they do that, that would be interesting. Again, raising the stakes. That's when it's not a teeny bopper show. It's it's this show isn't that. They wouldn't put it on 9 o'clock on Fox. This isn't Riverdale or something like that. But,
agreed.
No, I looking forward to next episode. I want to see an X-Men at some point though, like in the background somewhere or something. I need to.
We're gonna get like Colossus or Negasonic Teenage Warhead before we see
Negasonic Teenage Warhead would be perfect.
Yes, it would.
Perfect.
Okay, well, Dennis, last thoughts?
Yeah, we did have, I forgot, we had some comments on our last episode because we were talking about that red energy ball that came out that we saw.
Yes.
People were saying Nimrod was also another one.
That's an interesting one. Okay.
That's a good one.
Aurora was another one.
Like North Star and Aurora?
Mm-hmm. And North Star, of course. And there was one other, and I'm blanking on it at the moment. But there were 3 other people that they had mentioned that also have that.
One of them said that one of the powers of the people we have on the show is a red, like Eclipse or something might have been involved. Somebody brought up the fact that there might be somebody from, or Magneto, or there might be somebody from our team that was actually involved with this thing. So, there's some interesting theories out there. Again, if you have any more, just let us know.
What if Blink is involved in it?
Yeah,
she could very well be involved. She could have been the one that opened that portal over the head, overhead, and let some kind of energy through. And
how long ago did it happen? Like 4 years.
4 years ago.
Yeah, so
five years ago.
There's no way she's been wandering around aimlessly for 5 years, right? Like if she was involved with it, she had been here for a while. No, you're right. No, I don't see that.
I don't think it's anybody from the team because they're young. I mean, 5 years ago for them would have.
But we don't know what Eclipse was doing. 5 years ago.
Is the plant.
Yeah, she could be. I mean, why would she run away though if she's the plant? You would think she would stick around no matter what.
I don't know. Who knows?
There's got to be. I mean, you got to. They're there of their own accord. They're not like there from the tattoo. So whoever the plan is, like, really hates them for some reason. So.
I honestly don't. I think it's less of a plant. I mean, there might be a plant. I'm seeing it more as just somebody turning on the team for emotional reasons. Yeah, at some point, like just getting pissed off and turning on them. Okay, guys. Well, we have a lot more shows that we're covering. Right now, we're covering Star Trek Discovery and Mr. Robot. Star Trek's on Sunday, Mr. Robot's on Wednesday. We also have Nerdrotic News that we're dropping, I think, every Tuesday we're trying to hit. We record them on the weekends and drop them as soon as we can.
This week's going to be delayed because I've been under the weather. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Thursday.
So keep a lookout for the news, Nerdrotic News Show, the official Nerdrotic podcast. We're on episode 110. And we also have The Punisher coming up on November 17th. Dennis's birthday. Happy birthday, or happy early birthday.
Dennis.
And we also
actually not on my birthday. It's the weekend right before my birthday.
Gotcha. And then we have The Runaways coming out. The first 3 episodes drop on the 21st of November. That's Thanksgiving week. So hopefully we'll cover the first 3 episodes right away. So you have something to listen to on your holiday travels. If you get to watch the show, that's something we're looking forward to. I just read the first 4 trade paperbacks of that in preparation for the comic. For the show. I'm rereading them, and man, I just love it so much. I can't wait for that. So keep an eye out for all this content. Again, subscribe to us on YouTube at the Nerdrotic channel on YouTube. Hit subscribe and the alerts button, and like us on Facebook. Thanks, everybody. You want to lead us out? Gary, you want to go first? Or Dennis, you want to go first?
Sure, I can go first. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out, America.
May the small folks sing songs of your greatness.
Awesome. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye.
See you next week. 2 more episodes. Sad face.
Sad face. We're making an exit now.
Exit.
Exit. Get it?
I'm ecstatic.
Oh boy.
Exciting.
Bye-bye.